If you're hearing this, it's already too late to pretend that the world is normal. And these stories aren't just urban legends, they're real encounters from real people. So if you scare easily, turn on the lights or don't. What's good? What's good in the YouTube hood? It's your girl, Luna Nova, and I'm back with another one for y'all today. Welcome back to the Mystic News, where we get into the conspiracy, the creepy, and the downright strange. For those of you that are new here, welcome. My name is Luna, and I'm your favorite hoodoo homegirl and storyteller. And y'all should be able to catch the spooky vibes and know what's going on over here. Because when the veil cracks open, I like to tell the truth about what seeps through. Tonight's compilation is another mix of paranormal encounters, spiritual warnings, and moments that just should not be possible unless something is watching, waiting, or wandering too close. Every story that you're about to hear is an experience that came from someone that swears by it. No scripts, no embellishment, just raw emotions and experiences. So, with that being said, y'all already know what to do. Grab you a drink, grab you a snack, and let's go ahead and get into today's creepy compilation. Only if you dare.
Story time on when I thought I seen my brother, but it was not my brother. So, at the time, we didn't have a bathroom door. The bathroom door had got broken. So, we put a curtain there, but the curtain was one of those curtains where it's not all the way at the ground. You could kind of see people's feet. It was one day that I had to use the bathroom, and I look and I see my brother's feet using the bathroom, but he's standing up he's not doing number two in the bathroom. So I'm waiting for him for so freaking long to get out of the bathroom. But I'm sitting there on my phone, not paying attention, but I'm kind of paying attention. And he never walks out of the bathroom. And mind you, his room is right next to where I was sitting on the couch. So I'm like, what is taking him so long to get out the bathroom? So I get up and I go in the bathroom. Well, I walk towards the bathroom. I don't see his feet. So I open the curtain to see if he standing on the bathtub or something, and he was not in there. So I go in his room after that and I ask him yo, Izzy, you was in the bathroom? What took you so long to get out the bathroom, and when did you go out of the bathroom? He was like, I never went in the bathroom. I've been in here the whole time playing the game. And I'm like, what the fuck? And this is not even the first time that happened. That actually happened again, but with my sister. Oh yeah, I got another story time. So, it was a day where I was chilling in the dining room area. And you know how you doing something, but you could see with your peripherals. You know. So I was doing something. I don't remember what I was doing, but I know I seen in my peripheral my brother went upstairs in our parents' room. So, mind you, I stood in the dining room the whole entire time. I don't remember what I was doing, but I'm just waiting to see my brother come down. Cause I'm paying attention, but I'm not paying attention. And he never comes downstairs. But I go in his room for something, to get something, and I see him sitting on the bed. And I'm like, didn't you just go upstairs in mom and dad's room? And he was like, no, I didn't go upstairs in mom and dad's room. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna talk about this ever again. And I haven't talked about it since today, right now. Hey y'all, so I'm back with another story time, and this one is actually from my dad. This is not from my mom. So if you guys want, you could put this video in 2x because it's gonna be kind of long, but I'm gonna try to make it short. So what I'm showing y'all right now is the apartment that my dad used to live in. It's in White Plains, Bronx. And okay, so this right here, this was the basement, okay? The second floor was where the living room was, the kitchen, and I think it had one bathroom. And then when you go up here, this is where all their bedrooms was, because there was a lot of them. All their bedrooms was up there, and there was another bathroom up there. So I just want y'all to keep that in mind, okay? Because it's really important. So when my dad was little, him and all his brothers and sisters, they used to have like a little curfew, so they would all have to go to bed at the same time. Yeah, so their parents would usually, like, stop by in the room and try to make sure that they're asleep. And my dad and his siblings would like act like they would sleep, but they really wasn't asleep. So after the parents would leave, they would get up and, play around and do whatever they wanted to do. So it's this one night that they're playing around and they're supposed to be asleep, but they hear footsteps going up the stairs, and they're like, the footsteps stop outside of their door, so they all acting like they're asleep, and they're waiting by listening to see if the footsteps is gonna go away. But that's the thing, the footsteps never went away. So they're waiting there, and they're like, okay, thinking and whispering to each other, like, when is mom and them gonna move? Like, why they standing there for so long? And the footsteps never ended up like leaving, but they all heard it, because mind you, there's a lot of them. And they eventually fell asleep this night. So the next day comes, and they're all like, I think they were sitting at the dinner table in the kitchen. It was daytime though. And they were all talking about how they heard footsteps in the house, like going up the stairs. And I think it was the older sibling saying it, because the older siblings shared a room and the younger siblings shared a room. So when the older siblings were saying they heard it, that's when my dad and the siblings that he shared a room with was like, yeah, we heard it too. And they was all talking about it, and the grown-ups was like, oh, y'all need to shut up, like, stop talking about that. Like, they was getting freaked out by it. They was just like, shut up. So now fast forward to a whole different day. This day, my dad had to get his hair washed, so his mom took him to the bathroom to wash his hair. Everybody else wasn't supposed to be in the house. Everybody else was supposed to be in the backyard, I think he said, doing something. So while he's getting his hair washed by his mom, he's like not in the bathtub, but his head is in the bathtub, and she's washing his hair like that. So they're both like crouched kind of to the ground, but the door is closed, right? So they start hearing footsteps from the second floor going up to the third floor. That's where the bathroom was. And when they heard the footsteps going upstairs, the footsteps stops in front of the bathroom door. So my grandma, the one that passed away, and she called us the day of her funeral, she was yelling out her kids' names like, stop playing around. She's like, Anthony, stop playing around. Anthony. Anthony. Anthony's not answering, but she thought it was Anthony first, because Anthony is the one that likes to play pranks on everybody, and he's playing around all the time. So she started calling the other siblings' names, and nobody's answering. So she's like, these kids is getting on my damn nerves. Like, who is playing there? So now it get quiet. Her and my dad is quiet. They're not saying nothing. She even stopped washing his hair. And they're just looking at the door, and the door starts shaking. Like, the handle starts shaking. Shaking for mad long. But the door is not locked. The door is not locked. So why is whoever's at the door not opening it? Unless they can't open it. So after that, they see the door handle shaking, so it stops. And my grandma gets mad, so she gets up and she slams open the door like, who the fuck was that? And she's looking around, and nobody's in the house. Like, nobody is on this floor. They didn't hear the footsteps run down the stairs to go downstairs, because the bathroom was right as soon as you come up the stairs. So basically nobody did it. Nobody did it, right? Now we're going to fast forward to a whole nother day. So I think my dad and his siblings the younger siblings was asleep at this time, but the older siblings was in a different room and they was awake. But the next day, they're all chilling and they're talking about stuff. And then the older siblings proceed to tell my grandma and all the adults that was in the house that they heard somebody playing on the roof last night. So my grandma, like I said before, she always think everything is Anthony because Anthony likes to play around. And Anthony is one of the oldest ones. So she's like, Anthony, why the fuck was you playing on the roof last night? Da da da. You were supposed to be asleep. He was like, it was not me. Like, it was not me. Like, he's persistent. It was not me. So she thinks that it's one of, like, it was my dad or people around his age, the siblings around his age. And he's like, no, it wasn't none of us. Like, we promise you it was none of us. We were asleep. So they go into, like, this room, right? And in the room, they have a ladder. And then the ceiling is one of those ceilings that you push up and you can move it. But when you move it, like, you don't end up in the attic. You end up on the roof of the house. Because it wasn't even an apartment. It was a house. And when they got on the roof, they seen footsteps. But the footsteps it started from the back of the house and was going straight forward to the front of the house. Now, there wasn't no footsteps that, like, went around in a circle. Like, the person wasn't going back and forth. Like, they walked in a straight line from the back of the house to the front of the house. That's important. Now, they're all on the top of the apartment, right? The house. And they tell the grown-ups, like, yo, there's footprints up here. So all the grown-ups come up to the front. They come up to the roof. So now they're trying to see where the footprints came from, because somebody can't just jump from the bottom of the house, like on the ground, to the top of the house. So they look and they see that the footsteps are coming from all the way in the backyard. Now, in the backyard, there's like a gate after a certain amount of feet, and like behind the gate, it's some woods back there. It's not like a deep amount of woods, but it's some woods. So whoever the person was, or the ghost was, walked from the woods into a straight line and somehow got to the top of the roof and started walking even like in a straight line to the front of the house. And the straight line was like not messed up at all. Like my dad was saying, like if you was in a helicopter on top of the house and you was looking down, you would see that it's a straight line. Somebody was walking in a straight line. So now they like, okay, let's see if there's footprints in the front of the house, because we don't think that, the footsteps would just stop right here, because that's mad weird. So they go to the front of the house, and the footsteps is like basically that jumped from the top of the roof. They jumped onto the second floor's balcony that was outside of the kitchen and jumped down and walked straight, like on the front lawn. And like once they got to the gate in front of the house and they was looking to see where the footprints went, there was no footprints. Mind you, it was snowing, so that's how they was able to see all this. But yeah, there was no footprints in the woods. There was no footprints over the gate in the front of the house. Whoever it was somehow ended up on the top of the roof, but there's nothing for them to climb onto the top of the roof. And yeah. So my grandma and them didn't know if somebody was just like breaking into the house occasionally and just trying to scare them, or if it was a ghost. But there's more story times with this house.
Chat, if you've been watching my stuff, then you already know what this is about. I do videos about a couple of different things, but what I've been talking about lately is the supernatural activity that goes on my job. Look, I just wanted to tell you right quick. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I work in the historic district, so I already know that there's paranormal activity in the area. We've had paranormal experts come down and go to other areas of where I work, and they have said that there's lots of supernatural activity. So I'm not unfamiliar with that. I've talked about, that I can't separate myself from it. You have to apologize. I'm looking around a lot right now because I'm paranoid, because I'm still in the district and it's on a Saturday, so there's not much traffic down here. It's not too many people moving about. But I just left out of the office because I left something on my desk and I needed to pick it up because I need to be prepared for a meeting that I have next week. And so I didn't want to come down on Monday and then have to start prepping then. But I just feel a little uneasy, a little uncomfortable right now, just because while I was in the building, that heavy presence that's in there that I don't understand what it is, it was in there and it was following me, and I needed to stop by the restroom right quick and it was following me. And I kept noticing that one of the doors to one of the conference rooms just kept kind of, moving back and forth by itself. And it made me remember that my buddy, Willie, said that like 2 Friday nights ago, he and his lady were down. They were having a date and he thought about something that he had left in his office. And he came down to get it, or his building rather, and he had come down to get it. And he said that the doors were opening and closing by itself, and he said he just hurried up and got on up out of there. So yeah, I just wanted to get on here right quick and just kind of mention that I'm all right, I'm okay and I'm gonna be okay. But yeah, if you experience supernatural activity and it's something that bothers you, or you can't separate yourself from it, then you understand where I'm coming from. It's a lot. Chat, the dark things, post number 2. Let's get into it. So I was getting ready to leave the building after I picked up my report, and I had been basically tortured upstairs, coming to downstairs, walking towards security. So the security guard mentioned that there's a gentleman with me every time he sees me. That's the first time that he had ever mentioned that to me. I don't know who or what the gentleman is, but I do feel like I have a protector that is with me at all times, and I have been told that in previous years or earlier years in my life. So hearing that there's someone with me, a protector with me, that's how I see it. Doesn't affect me or doesn't make me feel uneasy, but that's what the security guard said to me. But back to my coworker, the one that played with the Ouija board. She began to tell us she returned to work. Let's see, and I'm trying to get my thoughts together because my videos are not rehearsed. She came back to work after a 5-week break of being out of the building, I guess, from where she had initially played with the Ouija board when we didn't know that she had played with the board. And she came in, and I was standing in the hallway having a conversation with my buddy Willie that I've mentioned in previous videos, and we were just catching up because he hadn't seen me in about 2 or 3 weeks. I had come back to work, and then for about a week and a half or so, I was in and out of the office because I just couldn't readjust to the negative energy that is in the building now. So I was talking to him, and we weren't really talking about anything supernatural until that coworker came around the corner. And so she had this very strange, puzzled look on her face. And so I was the first one to see her. And so I said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Welcome back. What's wrong?" And so she was looking like she was about to cry again. And she just started saying, as soon as I got on the elevator, I started smelling the cigarette smoke. And so she was like, "I guess things haven't changed since I have come back from my break." And she was like, "I don't want to be bothered with this." And she was like, "But I'm going to go to my office and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just try to get to work." So she and Willie and myself stood in the hallway and we just had a conversation for a while. And so he mentioned that he had smelled the cigarette smoke earlier. He hadn't brought it up to me. And I told him that I hadn't experienced anything that particular morning. And this was after the fire alarm. So I told him, I said, everything was fine. And so she said, "The fire alarm went off again?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I think this is like the 3rd time the fire alarm has gone off." And so she was like, "Okay." She was like, "I may not be here for much longer." But when she sat down in her office a little bit later, she started telling me about one of the reasons why she left work so abruptly is because whatever it was, the dark energy that was bothering her, it was pulling her hair. It was slapping her, and it was like scratching her. And she said that, she couldn't stay in there anymore. And that's why she wanted to move to a different office. And so I told her I said, "Well, I wish that you had not done that, played with that board, but we're on the other side of it now. So I guess we'll just have to deal with it." And she said, "Yeah," she said, "but what I can't deal with is that whoever this is that's following me, and whoever this is that's at home with me, they're harassing me all the time." And she said, you know, I just can't stop crying, and it's really starting to affect my personal life. And I told her, I said, well, I'll say a prayer for you, and I hope that everything will be okay with you. But as far as I'm concerned, look, I'm at work very early in the morning because I have a lot of things that I have to get across my desk. I work with this group of people, but I am a sort of like in a separate company all to myself, and I work by myself, so I can set my own hours and do whatever it is that I need to do for myself. So I get there very early in the morning because that is the most productive time before everyone else comes into the building, and I like being there when it's quiet. But chat, I'm going to tell you something. That building is the creepiest place that I have ever worked before, and I'm not really sure how to process it because it just started happening to me about 2 years ago in the workplace. In my personal life, not dark negative energy, but in my personal life, supernatural stuff. I'm not new to that. At work, yes. So I don't know what's going on, but I will be updating you on some more things that have happened since she has come back to work and told us about something is physically attacking her.
Y'all, I need a paranormal expert or someone that knows about the paranormal or is a witch or something that, you know, someone that just knows about this. We were in Fredericksburg, as y'all know that follow me, and we ended up staying another night because we had to. That's a whole nother story. But we ended up staying in an Airbnb that was a church in the 1910s. I think it was built in 1910 in San Marcos. Walked in immediately, like, I was kind of like, this kind of feels a little, I don't know. But, you know, there's a lot of old houses. We've stayed in a lot of different old houses. I grew up in old houses, so it just feels like that almost anywhere you stay that's older, right? I was like, okay, we can make this work. But we started getting ready for bed. Homegirl, my girlfriend, homegirl, my girlfriend fell asleep. She falls asleep so quickly, but I was sober, wide awake, just scrolling on my phone. Normal shit, okay? Out of nowhere, I wish I could make the exact sound, but I'm gonna try. Out of nowhere, okay, I got a little goosebumps, right? These are the steps leading up to what happened. I got goosebumps, my ears started turning hot, and I felt a little, like, nauseous, and this was, like, all within, like, a minute, okay? Mind you, nothing in the reviews said anything that might be wrong with his house, okay? Anyway, yeah, right directly in my ear. Directly, like, right here. Like, someone was, like, yelling in my ear. I wish I could describe it. It was like, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I know it sounds like snoring, but it sounds like someone was, like, scratching a wall, but also, like, breathing heavy in my ear. Yeah. Yeah. When I tell you my phone dropped out of my hands, I immediately, like, my heart rate, I immediately, like, sat up, and, like, after, like, the second time, I started shaking Allison awake, and I was like, babe, do you hear that? Babe, what is that? Babe, do you hear that? Like, waking her up, she's half asleep, she's probably like, what the hell is going on? But this went on for, like, 2 minutes, but it slowly started, like, moving away from me, and then I heard it, like, across the house. And she still didn't hear it. By this time, she was kind of awake. Like, she could probably, her ears work. Yeah. I just stood there frozen with my flashlight for, like, 5 minutes, and I was like, we have to go. I can't sleep here. I don't feel good. Like, I'm flushed. Like, that was not an animal. That was nothing outside the door. That was something otherworldly. And I don't know why she didn't hear it. I don't know why anyone else hasn't experienced anything. I know I'm not crazy. Like, I kept telling myself, am I crazy? Like, was it an animal? No. 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 So if anyone knows what that might be, because I cannot get it out of my head, and I'm, like, scared to go to sleep. Like, it takes me a while to go to sleep since, Sunday. Or Saturday night. We immediately left and went to La Quinta. I tell you what. Oh my god. Okay, if y'all made it this far, thanks for listening. But if you know what that might have been, let me know. Because what the fuck?
If it is nighttime, do not watch this video, especially if you live in Houston, Texas. This story was told to me by a nurse colleague named Nicole. Nicole used to work as a transition nurse in this hospital off of 1960. Now, this hospital is scheduled for demolition, and I don't know if it still exists to this day. So on Nicole's unit, there was 2 OR rooms, OR number 1 and OR number 2. And in those OR rooms, they typically would do C-sections. And in between the 2 OR rooms was the scrub station where, the doctors and nurses would scrub in and out. So one day during one of these C-sections, a nurse has a heart attack and collapses. This nurse collapses and they're calling in extra people to come help her and to help with the surgery. And, they're trying to manage this emergency situation. They don't know exactly what's going on, but they do their ABCs. They're like, okay, we're starting compressions. This nurse is, dying. They quickly finish the C-section and, they get the baby out and they move the mother and the baby over into OR number 1. The anesthesiologist kind of moves to work on the nurse and, they're doing compressions and they do compressions for about 45 minutes and eventually they do have to call it. Now, this was extremely devastating. Not only did this nurse have a heart attack and pass away, but this nurse was actually there when they were laying the bricks for this hospital. So this was an original nurse. This was not oh, I was hired on and I'm new to the team. No, this was an OG nurse. So years after this nurse passes away, the staff start to notice weird things happening on the unit. Things would get misplaced, things would get knocked over, and even more spooky is that a lot of staff members actually would see the nurse in OR2. The area was actually so notorious for paranormal activity that the staff actually refused to go there by themselves a lot of the times. A lot of times they were like, nope, I'm taking you with me. I don't want to go there by myself. It's creepy. And when my friend Nicole got hired on to be a nurse on that unit, and she heard of all these spooky stories and things getting misplaced and thrown around, she didn't really believe it. So there's an incoming C-section. OR number 2 is prepped, and mind you, this is the OR that she died in. So as this doctor is in between these 2 OR rooms, he's scrubbing in, he looks up into OR number 2. Mind you, no one is supposed to be in that OR room at the moment because all the staff is literally with the patient about to roll them down the hall. So no one should be in OR number 2, but he looks up, he looks into OR number 2 through the window on the door, and he sees his dead colleague walk by the window. And when I say dead colleague, I mean he knew the nurse that died. He was also there when they started this hospital, when they first opened the doors. He knew her. So he immediately recognized who that nurse was. And as he's finishing up scrubbing in, the other nurses are coming down with the patient, and he's like, whoa, stop, hold on. I need you to prep OR number 1. And the nurses are kind of looking at each other like, okay, but we just prepped OR number 2. Everything is ready in OR number 2. Why do you want to move it to OR number 1? And the doctor is like, no. We cannot go in OR number 2 because she is in there. And all of the staff members knew exactly who he was talking about. So they went and prepped OR number 1. And so they would do the surgery in OR number 1. Now, this particular nurse was a really good nurse and she protected her patients even after death. So when this nurse was alive, she notoriously did not like a particular doctor. And it would actually turn out that this particular doctor would end up getting sued for malpractice because she was doing shady things. And when I say shady, I mean this doctor was doing C-sections and mommy makeovers at the same time. But none of this came out until after the nurse passed away. And what's interesting is that when the nurses and the staff would go and prep the OR and get all the doctor's things in order, that particular doctor would always have their stuff knocked over. So much to the point where they would actually have to tell the doctor, hey, look, she don't want you in there. And the doctor would be understanding about it and be like, oh, well, okay, we'll just go in the other room then. So obviously, as my friend Nicole is telling me all this, I'm like, okay, well, I have to ask, did you ever see her? And Nicole would even say, well, yeah, I've seen her. And I'm like, obviously curious, well, what did she look like? And she's like, well, she looked like a staff member. She had the green scrubs, her little scrub cap. And most of the time you'd see her walking by the window. And then a few minutes later, she'd just kind of walk by again. And then a few minutes later, she'd do it again. And that is all I have for the story. If you like spooky content like this, you can follow me if you want. If not, then stay safe.
Well, my hoodlums, if you made it here to the end, congratulations, because not everybody can sit through that kind of energy. Because these stories are a reminder that these stories aren't just folklore. It's not some creepy campfire story. These are things that are happening all around us every single day. Just not everybody has a chance of experiencing it. But if you do have a story of your own, of course, us hoodlums over here would absolutely love to hear it. So make sure that you check out the description of this video so you can find my email and submit your story for the next episode of the Mystic Files. And if you didn't catch the last video that I posted, yes, Mystic Monday has now been upgraded to the Mystic Files, because I wanted to expand on some of the topics that we talk about, because I've had a lot of people say that they really want more spiritual content and me to do spiritual breakdowns and Q&A. So I thought I'd open up the podcast for that. So if you would like your question answered or your story featured on the Mystic Files, make sure that you check out the description of this video so you can submit your story. So make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and tap in. And if you're not a member of the channel, I don't know what you're doing. For all of those who want to learn about spells and go deeper into spirituality, not just hoodoo, because again, hoodoo is what now? A closed practice. But I do have spiritual friendly, it doesn't matter what your practice is, I do have spiritual friendly tips and tools for you all to use. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely join the channel as a member, because I do go live once a week with my members. That is something that I've started new recently, but I figured it'd give a good space to again open up the floor for Q&A and for those who are seriously seeking more spiritual elevation and education. So make sure that you stick around, stay tapped in, because when I say the next compilation, I don't even think I was ready for it. So with that being said, make sure that you stay aware, stay safe, and remember, the veil doesn't open up by accident. So drink your water, mind your business, and stay prayed and protected. And as always, Luna loves you. I'll be back with another one for you guys, if the spirits allow it.
Give it right back, did they give it right back? This up, baby, can I sit right back? Wanna give it right back, baby, yeah, like that,